Hello everybody and welcome back to Simon's Order Academy. Today we're going to be talking about the new Stormcast Eternals Battletome and where I think each of the Warscrolls in the new book fall on a tier list of strength, going from A to F, and hopefully this will be able to give you guys a little bit of information on how I think about how I choose units for a competitive Age of Sigmar list, and might help you make some selections of your own. So I think it goes without saying that these guys are the workhorses behind Simon's Order Academy. So without them, you wouldn't get videos like this. You'd probably just get the battle report videos, and that'd be the extent of it. So you have these guys to thank for having videos such as this one that help you with list building. The latest one is David James Inglis, so thank you very much for coming on board. There are a couple of people that are coming after him, but I like to shout out one specific person per video. So thanks very much, David, for coming on board. If anyone else is interested in joining, generally what people do is that they, go if they need help building a list for a tournament. For example, there was someone that was building a list for NashCon, jumped on board the top tier, raided my brain for the better part of a week for list building. We settled on a list together. And then after that, drop down their subscription level to the lowest level just to support. So if anyone's interested in doing that, you're more than welcome to. The truth of the matter is that I will, majority of the time, talk to anyone anyway about Cities of Sigmar, and I do so regularly. Not even Cities of Sigmar, Stormcast now as well. But if you would like to, I don't like to say repay me. If you want to compensate me for my time that I spend talking to you, then I'm more than happy to take your money from you. It sounds really conceited, doesn't it? It's fine. And thanks to the Patreons, the channel has been going from strength to strength. And so the other day we got to 1,000 subscribers, which is really exciting. As part of that, I did a raffle, and so I had a dice tray, a Cities of Sigmar one that got made custom for me by a dude over in America. He basically does, I think, pretty much every different faction potentially, and you can hit him up for kind of custom work if you want to. So I'll put his details in the description for the video if anyone wants to reach out. But the winner of the dice tray was Johan Lundström, who is from Sweden, outside of Helsingborg. So Johan's come on recently to the Patreon program. Everyone's going to be like, oh my god, a Patreon won the dice tray, what a surprise. But I did actually do random numbers, because I remember that he was number 555, and that was the number that got randomized on Google. So if you got an issue, take it up with Google. So he's getting blue Cities of Sigmar dice tray, which I think is really cool. And thank you very much, Johan, for supporting the channel. And then secondly, Strikehammer. So I don't have a way to reach out to you. So if Strikehammer or any of his friends are able to get in contact, simonsorderacademy@gmail.com. Please reach out so that I can send you lovely dice sets. So we've got 10 each of custom dice that I had made through Chessex. And they are the Hello Heart, the Hammerhall, and the Living City dice. And so those are three of my favorite cities. And so I will be sending you 10 of each of those dice that hopefully you get to use in some games in the near future. Alright, so let's jump into this. High level Stormcast thoughts. I really like the Stormcast Eternals Battletome. I think that they've done a really good job making multiple varied builds viable, thanks to primarily the battle line if entries in the pitch battle profiles. So battle line if you're Tempest Lords, for Prosecutors, for example. Battle line if you're in Hammers of Sigmar, for the Dracothian Guard units. Battle line if you're Paladin in Nice Excelsior. See, I don't remember half the time. There's just so many different similar names. But what that means is that I think that the gross majority of the units or Warscrolls are going to be viable in this edition, and so I quite like how they've put the Battletome together in that respect. The design of the book wise, it's streamlined and much simpler than second edition. I think that that's probably I'm fairly comfortable with making that statement. Instead of having, like before, if you just had a look at the artifacts table from before, and you had lanterns, and you had scrolls, and you had armor, and you had weapons, and you had all of these different things. different spell laws, like all this stuff. Now you've just got one spell law for the entire faction. You've got one artifact table for the entire faction. I think it's really good. I think that is going to make it better. And, you know, coming from cities, we've got unique artifacts and spell laws and command trace for each city. And a lot of them are just wasted space because they're shit. And so what having this streamlined version does is you can take it in any city. Any storm host. And I quite like that. It literally just makes things simpler when list building. It removes a bit of that nuance that you get making complicated lists that I quite enjoy, but at the same time, it makes it easier for the gross majority of people, so I'm in support of it. I think your body count is going to be lower than your standard competitive armies, except maybe Archaon with Varangard. I think that one probably has similar body count. I think you're going to see between 2 and 3 units of 10 Vindictors, and then the rest of the army basically to flavour after that. Might be some Liberators splashed, you know, here and there. So this is maybe a hot take. I think it's a fairly accurate statement, but the new Warscrolls are definitely stronger than the old ones, with a few exceptions, like the poor Knight Relictor. I don't know what they were thinking there or what happened there, but yeah, with him. This suggests to me is that product creep is what I call it, is like what we saw with the Primaris Space Marines going into 8th edition. So what happened is that the Primaris were better, just basically in every single way, and the Firstborn Space Marines kind of have gone the way of the dodo. Nobody really plays them anymore. You can play them if you want to, but they're nowhere near as efficient as the newer units, and so I think that's what's happening here to the Stormcast. Not necessarily a bad thing. I think that they've probably pulled the trigger on that a little bit too early with Stormcast, because like the Firstborn Space Marines have been out for, I mean, I've been playing 40k since 2nd edition, and so the current ones I think have been out since 4th or 5th edition. Stormcast have not been out anywhere near as long, so they may pull the trigger a little bit too early, but it is what it is. The next thing is that even though they claim, you know, that there are some number of Warscrolls in the 70s, I think in this new book only about 70% of them are worth considering in competitive lists, and I think even then the list is probably closer to 40% of things that you'll actually see in, you know, top tier competitive lists, maybe even less, maybe even 25%. So even though it seems like a lot of Warscroll bloat, they have dealt with that. And that's a neutral statement. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, but they have dealt with Warscroll bloat by either pointing things out of contention or by changing rules on their Warscrolls so that they basically will not be taken in lists. And so that knocks out quite a bit of the Warscrolls, and so it makes it kind of easy to build lists. And then finally, hot take on lists to begin with, we can all see that there are going to be dragon heavy builds coming once those dragon kits are dropped, and I anticipate they're going to be sold out the weekend that they go on pre-order. So if you want dragons, get in early. But you take a dragon heavy build with the -1 to win command trait. I think you take a Lord Celestant on Stardrake instead of the Lord Draconis. I don't rate the Lord Draconis myself. Some people might disagree, but I think you just take the dude on Stardrake and then just take shitloads of dragons, and that seems good. I think the second archetypal build will be Stormkeeps with multiple units of Vindictors, whether it's 1 unit of 15 and 2 units of 10, or 3 units of 10, and maybe I think I quite like the 3 units of 10 backed up by 6 Vanguard Raptors, and then I think to go on to this third point, you then whack it in Hallowed Knights with Guard of Steel, so I'll give it all 5+ ward, and I think that's a pretty good way to do it. So yeah, I think that the Dragon Heavy and Stormkeeps with Vindictors are going to be your 2 key builds that you're going to be seeing going forward in competitive lists. So when putting the models into these tiers, I've gone with the following ones: A, B, C, D, and F. So I'm not a fan at all of people saying S tier. S tier doesn't make any sense to me. You just put it in A and you bump other things down, like fucking smooth brains. Anyway, A tier. So an A tier unit is a unit that is likely undercosted for their utility and is going to be a solid choice regardless of whatever storm coast you take them in. And you would expect to see these in every competitive list. And by competitive list, I mean lists that are going to be pushing for 4-1-5-0 at a tournament, and they're min-maxed to do that very much. I know that we've got, you've got Spike, Johnny, and I can't remember what the other one's name is. I like to call those lists Corey lists. Corey, I love you. This is basically as min-max as you can get. Dragon builds will definitely be in the realm of the competitive list, and again, as I said, I think the Vindictors are going to be in every competitive list. Just to give you a sneak peek into what's going to be in the A tier. B tier, so units that are good in multiple storm hosts, they are appropriately costed, and I would expect to see at least one of the units from the B tier in the majority of competitive lists supporting those A tier units. C tier, so units that are good when taken in a single storm host. A lot of this stuff is the battle line if stuff. So for example, I think that when you take prosecutors with javelins in Tempest Lords, they're better. And I think that they're good when taken there, but I think they're situationally useful in multiple other storm hosts, basically. And I think that basically they with most of these units in the C tier, they will be slightly overcosted compared to similar units that are sitting in the B tier. D tier, so units that are situationally useful in one storm host only. So for example, the gross majority of the Hammers of Sigmar heroes are going to be in the D tier because they're not good when taken in Hammers of Sigmar, but they are situationally useful when taken in Hammers of Sigmar. Or the other option is they only have obscure contextual abilities that mean it's only really worth taking the unit if you also invest in multiple other units to make it work. So the thing that I would say here is like the Knight Arcanum on Dracoline, I think is one of the ones in a D tier. So you wouldn't take that unless you're also taking Evocators on Dracolines, and then I think you probably wouldn't even take Evocators on Dracolines without taking something else like Sequitors, so that they can buff them. And anyway, D tier is basically close to F tier. I don't know if I would take pretty much anything in D tier. I think if I was building lists, the gross majority of stuff, I keep saying gross majority, the majority of units that I take would be in A, B, or C tier in even a remotely competitive list. I think D tier units are the ones that people like because they're a lot of the time they're fluffy and they're narrative based, but I don't think that it's worth taking them essentially. And then that leads into F tier. So stuff that's just boring, grossly overcosted, like for example, the Lord Exorcist. He's a great example of boring and grossly overcosted. Oh, he's not boring. He's got a weird situational ability, but he is grossly overcosted. The Knight Relictor, he's boring, so he's the boring one. Or there's something in the book that does what it does, but better and cheaper. So for example, the prosecutors with hammers, I think are worse than the prosecutors with javelins, basically because that armor saving because of the range, right? And so if you have the option of taking the prosecutors with javelins, why would you ever take the prosecutors with hammers, is how my mind works on this. The other thing with this is, or the other comparison I would make is the the Lord Arcanum on foot compared with the Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. So for 40 more points, you get an extra 2 wounds, you get extra attacks from the Griff Charger, you get a free teleport anywhere on the table in every single turn, and you get arguably a better spell, and you get higher just base movement. So, why would you ever bother taking the Knight Arcanum on foot? So I'm going to rank every single Warscroll into one of these tiers. I do like discourse on this, so if you think I'm wrong, I already actually ran this past a few people and people that play Stormcast, and who I did adjust a couple of the units in this, and if I remember them, I might mention it when I'm talking about them. So I am open to discourse. I like to discuss things like this, and if you think that I am, abhorrently wrong on something, please reach out and talk to me, because I'd like to talk about it. Alright, so the air is thin at the top. A tier units, there are 3 of them in this book. The first one is the Lord Relictor. So priests got significant buffs in 3rd edition, with how prayers worked, with how they're able to smite and do wounds for other priests. They can't be unbound, but they can unbind endless spells. They can unbind other priest invocations, like that kind of thing. So priests are pretty good in 3rd edition now. I quite like how they've given them a bit more character. And the Lord Relictor is definitely a good priest, because he just has a Warscroll ability that just gives him +1 to any prayers. So if there was like an arcane tome for priests, like, I don't know, what are the beads? whatever the beads are that Catholic people roll in their hands. Rosary beads, is that what they're called? Anyway, if you had something like that to give to priests to give them an extra prayer, this guy's stocks would skyrocket. But they're, they only give that ability to the wizards, which is sad times. The other thing that makes him super strong, and in my opinion an auto include, is that he has access to translocation in the new Battletome. So there's a lot of discussion on the internet at the moment about translocation, because they left out the bit that says you can't move afterwards. And I'm in the camp that I suspect they did this on purpose, because first of all, it just absolutely boggles the mind to think that at this point, after going through second edition, having to FAQ basically every single teleport ability to say I can't move afterwards, that they would still misprint this in the first Battletome of third edition. If they come out and FAQ this, I think I'm just going to throw my hands up and just go, gee, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Anyway, so I'm hoping that it is intentional and that translocation is makes the Lord Relictor basically an auto include. In the event that translocation doesn't allow a move after the prayer goes off, I think this guy drops down to B tier. So just keep that in mind. This is completely contextual at the moment. He has access to translocation, and I think that pushes him into A tier. If they change it, he drops down to B tier. Second unit is Vindictors. So again, I've talked about these guys a lot. I think Vindictors are probably one of the best battle line units in the game, just based on their 2-inch reach, their 3+ base armor saves, mortals on 6s to hit, extra rend. They got 2 attacks. They're just really good. So I quite like them. Like as you've seen before, I took them in Hammerhawk because I thought they were that good, and that was when they were 140. And so moving to the Battletome, they got a 10-point discount. It's amazing. They benefit from a lot of buffs thanks to the Redeemer keyword, whether it's the Stormkeep rules, whether it's a lot of the Hammers of Sigmar stuff works on Redeemers. Redeemer is a good keyword to have in this book, basically. And then finally, they are competitively costed for their resilience and output. They're 6.5 points per wound. That's really good. That's really competitive. Really competitive costing, especially with a 3+ armor save on top of it. Like, I know you've got horrors and stuff that are like 4 points per wound or something dumb, but these guys I think are really good. I can't talk highly enough of Vindictors. I really like them. And then finally, the new guys on the block, the Storm Drake Guard, like they are, we all know they're just done for 285 points. If they didn't make them monsters, they probably would be closer to being worth 285 points, but the fact that each model is worth 5 models on an objective, and they can do monstrous rampages, I just think it's silly. They're 145 points for one, and you compare one of these guys to one bloody Hydra or Charybdis, like stupid, or a Javaslith or a Gorgon or anything. They're just better than everything, basically, at 145 points per dude. And yeah, if there was an S tier, these guys would be in it. And I think that until these guys are brought in line, you'll be seeing them in every single competitive Stormcast list that is going to come out. So the B tier. So we have a couple of unique units in this tier, both Indrasta and Celestin Primer here. I really like... Indrasta went up points, which is annoying, but I like her ability where she's like a mini Nagash or a mini Archon, and just brings back a 3 wound unit a turn, a model to every 3 wound unit within a bubble of her a turn. Really strong, really great on things like Annihilators and other Paladins, really great on Vindictors. Like, Indrasta is just a really solid choice, especially in the monster meta, that she makes monsters fight at 10 wounds more than what they have on their profile. So I quite like Indrasta despite her going up 20 points. And then Celestin Prime's always been good. You've seen that I've used him in a number of battle reports recently without his 4+ ward save. You give him a 4+ ward, he's just, it's more than he's just double resilient. That makes him significantly better, and you will be seeing me play him probably not in Stormcast. I'll mention that later. Well, no, he's in 1 or 2 of my lists that I make, but he will definitely be getting a showing in my Hammerhall lists in the near future. And actually a couple of other lists, but more on that to come. Hero units, so Lord Castellan gives a unit +1 armor save, wholly within 18 of him, just good, basically. Knight Incantor, he has an auto unbind and he's a wizard, so both really good abilities to have. Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. So I talked about this guy briefly before, but essentially for 195 points, you're getting a single cast wizard who has 8 wounds. I think he's got 8 wounds. 3+ armor save, multiple damage, 2 or D3 attacks, a free teleport every single turn, and basically it's just a really strong choice in the current meta. The Lord Draconis I've put here. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he does make the Stormcast Guard battle line, and so I think he deserves a mention for that alone. And he's got a nice little ability that allows him to shoot in the hero phase once a game, so it's not nothing. I don't think he's great, but he's okay. Lord Selson on Stardrake. So I think for 500 points he is worth it in the current edition, especially because he's generic and you can give him an Amulet of Destiny on an 18 wound character. They've increased his offensive output, which is really nice. You can give him a mount trait, which is retreat and charge, which I think is really strong in him. It means that they can't bog him down anymore, and it allows him to go essentially wherever he wants on the board and exert his strength, which is really good, and allows you to shoot as well, which is pretty key. I think he's good. And it's a beautiful model, and he's a dragon. So if you make him in general, then the what are they called? Stormcast Guard, they become battle line. So also really strong, regardless of what Stormhost you're in. And then finally, the Lord Imperatant. So this is a guy that makes basically every Lord Celestant irrelevant. 175 points. It is expensive. However, he allows a unit that has Thunderstrike armor to come down at 7 inches instead of 9. 7 with a reroll. I don't know what the actual percentages are, but I think it goes from like I think a 7 with a reroll is about a 75%, but a 9 with a reroll is about a 40%. So you're almost doubling your chance of completing that charge. I don't know if that maths is accurate. I haven't actually done it, but in my head that's what it is. But the other thing that he does is that he brings you a free command ability every turn. So 10 free command points a game, which I think is 100% worth it. Most of the other Lord Celestants have you can do a free all-out attack once a game. Why would you not take this guy that just does it once a turn, every turn? He's really good. Battle line units, I still think Liberators are in B tier, so primarily just because of cost. They're 115 points. You save 15 points on unit of Vindicators, which, you probably just go Vindicators, but sometimes 15 points with other things that you have to put in your list is actually is enough to get basically the unit in. They can be brought back with the Call for Aid, Holy Command, and even though they're a 4+ with shield, they've got a 3+ armor save, which is good. The Sigmarite shields, it's good. You've got a battle line unit, 115 points, 2 wins each on a 3+ save essentially. So I'm a big fan of these guys. Obviously not as good as not as big a fan as Vindictors, but I'm still a pretty big fan of them. And then the other units that sit in the B tier are Fulminators. So Fulminators are just amazing. Damage 3 on the charge. If you can guarantee the charge, you bring them in from the heavens and charge them in. They just get 5 attacks with Rend 2 and 3 damage. They're just going to cut anything apart. I think they're really good. Protectors of the Foot version of the Fulminators. They are on a 3+ save at base. They go to a 2+. Because with their innate ability, just if you've got enough glaives, which is really strong. They've got Star Soul Maces and they've got 5 attacks each. Really good. Annihilators I've got in this list because I quite like their ability to do mortal wounds on the charge and to do mortal wounds when they're deep struck onto the board. So yeah, I just think they're a solid choice for 200 points. You only get 9 wounds as opposed to the 15 wounds that you get with a lot of the other paladins, but they're on a 2+ save, and that never goes away. And they still got damage 2 attacks and 10 attacks from the unit with on 3s and 3s. I just think they're a really good choice. Stormstrike Chariots. These are a new unit. I think for 165 points they're very aggressively costed, and they've got the similar ability to the Annihilators that they do a mortal wound on a 4+ for each inch that you've charged, which is really good. And they do have a good number of attacks. A lot of them are damage 2, and they've got 12 wounds with a 3+ armor save. So it's going to be hard to get out of combat with them because they're just going to be staying alive basically. And then finally, Vanguard Raptors with long strikes. So these guys used to be good. They're still good. They've got 2 attacks now instead of 1. They're hitting on 3s, which you can fix with all-out attack to take them to 2s. And then they wound on 2s naturally now. Previously, they were 2s to hit and 3s to wound. So they've just made them easier to make better. And when you've got 6 of them, when you've got 6 of them, you're doing 12 shots, so you're guaranteed 4 mortal wounds. But is that how maths works? I don't think that's how maths works. No, it is. That is how maths works. Guaranteed 4 mortal wounds plus a number of other of damage 2 wounds with Ren 2. So I think that these guys have a place, especially with the Thunderbolt Volley Holy. All right, we're back after a glass of water. Hopefully less croaky. C tier. Let's begin. So unique units. I'll remind you that this is the tier that I say that things are good within one Stormhost only, and then potentially could be good in others. Okay, so with that in mind, Gardas, I will rave about Gardas because I think he's absolutely amazing. However, you obviously wouldn't take him outside of Hallowed Knights, just because he'll give himself 5+ ward and that's it. And for 160 points, you wouldn't bother taking him. You'd just take, you'd probably just take a Lord Imperator instead of him. He's the same kind of archetype, the Lord Celestin archetype. So yeah, I think he's good in Hallowed Knights. I bought him basically as soon as the book dropped because I really like his Warscroll, and I like that he brings a little bit of utility. So I'm really happy that they've made that very, very beautiful model have some good rules. So the next one is Bastian Carthalos. So he's obviously the leader of the Hammers of Sigmar. This guy fucks, like damage 4 hammer. He's got a 4+ ward save with 8 wounds, so the same as a lot of the other, 4+ ward is just always absolutely amazing. And it gives you a redeploy as well in Hammers of Sigmar, which is really strong. If you're putting your Stormdrake Guard and then your opponent counters with, 40 zombies on the same flank, but they've got something good on the other flank, you just move them. And then, yeah, just really good. I like Bastion. I think that, and I'm going to play some Hammers of Sigmar because I quite like their Allegiance ability as well, even though that it's probably one of the most boring of all of them. Hammers have always been the most boring Storm host anyway. But I think it's boring but strong, especially in a Stormkeep. So yeah, I'm just thinking about, I think he fits in. So once his model comes out, I think I'll be getting him and getting him painted up anyway. And then Karazai and Krondus now. I imagine that this is going to cause some people to, lash out in rage, and so I'm sorry to those people that are listening. I don't rate the dragons that much at 600 points. I think that Karazai is probably only worth about 540, like 10% less than what he is at the moment. And Krondus, I think the problem is that he's good. Like he's 2-cast, like he's good. His Warscroll spell is really strong. But I think for 600 points, you're better off taking more Stormcast, but you're just better off taking more Vindictus, basically. I don't think he brings anything too great to the army. I think he's not bad in Cities of Sigmar, but I think in Stormcast you just wouldn't bother taking either of the big dragons, which, because you're not going to make him general, because then you're wasting a command trait and the -1 to wound dragons. So if you're taking them, then you need something else to be a general, which means that if you want to make the other dragons battle line, then you have to make that thing the general, so which is probably going to be a Knight Draconis. So that's 855, is he 255? I think he's 255. That's 855 points that you spend just to get the dragon into the list. And I'm not going to take away from it. It's not bad, but I think instead of I just don't think they have a place. I think it's a beautiful model, and I think that their Warscrolls are really flavorful. I think Karazai is very much overpointed. I think Krondus is probably fairly pointed. He just doesn't bring anything to Stormcast that you really want him. There's no spells that are. This sounds really dumb saying it, because there's a +1 to wound spell, but it's +1 on melee. Unlike in Hellheart, for example, where it's just +1 to wound on all weapons. Like, there's no spells except for his Warscroll 1 that he brings to the table, and a 2-caster for 600 points. Like, it's very expensive. Anyway, he's in this list. I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm not really actually that sorry. I'll be getting Krondus anyway to take him in Hello Heart, so I'll be buying the model, but I don't think I'll be using it in my Stormcast armies. So hero units that are in the C tier. The Knight Judicator, so he's one of the new ones. I think that he's interesting. I think that if you're going to, again, C tier, very contingent on combinations. So I think if you want to take Vigilors, then you would consider the Knight Judicator as your general. 2 shots with a damage 3 bow is not bad. And he, actually I just want to have a little bit of a rant about Gryph-hounds. I really like the change that they made to the Gryph-hounds, that they call out and 3 units are allowed to shoot at stuff that deep strikes within 12 of them. I don't think they're worth taking as a unit. You can obviously see they're not on this list, and spoiler alert, they're not on the D tier either. They're on the F tier. But when you can take characters that bring them on with them, I think that that's where they really shine. And unfortunately, they've taken it away from the Lord Castellan, the Lord Veritan, the... Who else has one? Anyway, the guys that bring... oh, well, the Lord Imperator has a Gryph-hound, but he never actually... He was never separate from the Non-Imperator. But if you had those heroes that just brought on one Gryph-hound, I think their value would actually increase, because the Gryph-hound Warscroll ability is actually quite good. But you don't want to pay 110 points for a unit of 6 of them that you can't spread out. You want to be able to take singles, or you want to be able to take 2s like you do with Aether Wings. Like, imagine if you could take 2 Gryph-hounds for 30 points. Or 40. Let's go 40 points. 2 Gryph-hounds, 40 points. People would take that. And you just put them on your flanks, and if anyone deep strikes in, then your Vanguard Raptors can shoot them. Like, that's really cool. That would be a really good way to do it, but you can't do that. And the only way to get them in units of 2 is with a Knight Judicator. And my point is basically that I think that that ability is really... that Gryph-hounds would be cool if you could bring them in units of 2, and the Knight Judicator brings a unit of 2. He in himself, he's just an artillery piece. Like, again, I don't know why. I probably would never take the Celestar Ballista, because you could just take a Knight Judicator for 60 more points, and I think he's just better. Next is both of the Knight Vexillors. So I quite like... again, while your Lord Relictor has translocation, I think the Knight Vexillor with the... Is it the Meteoric Standard? No, that's the damaging one. What's the other banner called? Come on, guys, you got to help me with this. So, well, let's talk about the guy with the banner of Apotheosis first. So that's pretty good. You know, I haven't used him. I haven't got him painted up. I can see the value in that ability, but it's once a game, which is quite painful. And he does have a reroll charge as well, but there's a lot of other ways you can get a reroll to charge. So I'm not too much of a fan of him. The Pennant of the Stormbringer, that's what it's called. The good thing about the Pennant of the Stormbringer is that it automatically goes off. So even, on a 2-up, you're failing 16% of the time. Even on a 2-up with a reroll, you're failing, I don't know what that is, 1 in 36 times, whatever percentage that is. It's like once a tournament, basically. So once a game if you don't give him the High Priest ability, and then once a tournament if you give him the High Priest ability. But the Knight Vexillor with the Pennant of the Stormbringer just does it, and he doesn't have to be wholly within 18 if the Knight Vexillor. It can be literally anywhere on the table. So it can be clutch for late game kind of teleports, but there are a lot of units that just have teleports now, like Knight Vanguard, Knight Paladors, the Lord Arcanum and Gryph Charger. There's lots of stuff that does the teleport anyway. Oh, and the Lord Aquila. Fancy talking about you. You're right there. Again, I'll do them with the Lord Arcanum on Taurolon. They both have a teleport. Oh, wait. No, not the Lord Arcanum on Taurolon. We don't want to talk about him. He's boring. Lord Aquila. So teleports during the game. The reason I've got him in C tier is because I think you're only really going to take him in Celestial Warbringers. Where is that? Sorry, I need to keep checking because I don't know what all of the rules are in this. So I apologise if this is annoying people, but I like to make sure that I am accurate in the statements that I say in here, so people can't come back and get angry at me. No, I don't think it's them. Is it? I'd have to go and get the book. Astral Templars, that's the one. Because his abilities on his Warscroll are dependent on them being in that faction. And so he obviously makes Vanguard Hunters better. And I quite like Vanguard Hunters. You'll see later down this, they are there. And so I think that they are, the Lord Aquila is good, but only in that sub-faction. Lord Arcana Montorolon, there's been a lot of talk about this guy. I think he would be better if he was still a 2-cast wizard, which he is obviously not anymore. He's now a 1-cast wizard. So previously he cast 2 spells, dispelled 1. Now he casts 1 and dispels 1. His Comet Trail is better. Comet Tail Trail, one of those two, is better because you just finish a move within 3 inches of a unit, and he's got a 14-inch move, which is really strong to give just +1 to hit to cities, to Stormcast and cities units. So I quite like that. He is a monster, and he's got a 3+ armor save. He got an increase. He went to 12 wounds from 10. I just don't see myself using him that much, to be honest. I think that instead of using him, you just go for the guy on Griff Charger who can just, instead of moving 14, just teleports everywhere. So, because you don't really want your Lord Arcana Montorolon in combat. He's also got the Cycle of the Storm ability, which is always going to be good. It stops Archeon and Nagash from just removing your heroes from the table if you've got to fight a hero, which is one of the main reasons I like taking him. But yeah, I think the guy on Griff Charger is just better than this one. Battle line units, so Adjudicators with Skybolt bows, I think they're good. Again, I think they're probably about 10% overcosted, so they should be about 180, I think. And then I would probably like them 6s, and 2 shots each, and 6 to hit 2 mortals. Like, why are these guys 200 when snakes are 170? I don't understand. Really, they get an extra armor save, but snakes get a higher move and shitloads of buffs from their allegiance ability, so I don't know why they're 200. Anyway. And then Vanquishers. So again, these guys aren't out, but they're the Greatsword Stormcast dudes. They're okay into hordes. We're not seeing that many hordes at the moment, so I think that their utility is very limited. That's all I'm really going to say about Vanquishers. I just don't think they're that great. They're in C tier because I can see that they have some uses, and they were in D, and then someone kind of convinced me to put them up into C. They do have some uses, and they do have utility, and they're 125 points, which is quite nicely costed for them. It puts them at less than Vindictors, which is in 10 points more than Liberators. So I think they're okay. They're okay. The other units in this tier, so Praetors, obviously bodyguard units, you'd have a model that you want to bodyguard. I think Gardas is the only thing in any of the lists that I've made that I've wanted to bodyguard and that I've put these guys in, so highly situational. Prosecutors with Stormcall Javelins, again, they are good in Tempest Lords and not a whole lot else. Aetherwings, pretty contingent on having dudes with long strike crossbows in the same list. I mean, you can take it with the Hurricane crossbows, but I don't think that unit's going to get used much. And Aetherwings are, they lost interesting abilities and they went up to 65 from 40 points where they probably didn't need to. Yeah. So Annihilators with Grand Hammers, I think the reason you take Annihilators is for the 2+ armor save. And when you go to a 3+, is still good, but damage is not what they're doing. What they're doing is holding up a big combat unit so that you can remove other things around it and then hit it with everything in the end. They're not there to deal out damage, even though sometimes they do. And then Vanguard Hunters and Vanguard Paladors. Again, I think that in Astral Templars, they are good. Vanguard Hunters are a great battle line. I really like them at 125 points. Even though they have a 4+ armor save, they have a teleport. It's a limited teleport, but you've got a battle line with teleport, and their guns are actually not that bad. 2 shots, 4s and 4s, rend 1. Really good. I really raid Vanguard Hunters. I don't have any Vanguard stuff painted up, except for Raptors. But I think that at some point in the future I will be playing a Vanguard list, and I really like them. And same thing with Paladors. They've got an unrestricted teleport. They're probably a little bit too expensive at the moment, but again, in Astral Templars, I think they're good, especially when they've got an Aquila running around behind them. And then finally the Vigilors. I'm not a huge fan. I know that you can make stuff +1 to hit, but there's so much other stuff that gives you +1 to hit. I think they're highly situational. Again, when you take them with the Knight Judicator, I could see them potentially being worth it, but 195 points is just so expensive. It's just so expensive for what they do. Anyway, if you like them, then take them. But I don't think they're going to be making into very many top competitive lists. Talking for a lot longer than I intended to. Sorry, I'm going through every single unit. I probably shouldn't. Unique units. These guys are all Hammers of Sigmar. You can take them in Hammers of Sigmar and they're okay. Anywhere else they're shit. So only take them in Hammer of Sigmar. There we go, sped that one up, didn't we? Hero units, so the Knight Heraldor, I didn't put him in an F. Like, he lost run and charge, which is sad. I still like his tooting on a terrain piece. Just does D3 mortal wounds now. Don't need to roll for it, so yeah, he's okay. I don't mind him. The Lord Ordinator, again, he's cheap. He's good. He's going to be better in cities probably than he is in Stormcast, but you could see taking him with the old strategy of dropping all the ballistas down and shooting stuff +1 to hit. It's not horrible. The Lord Arcanum on Dracoline, again, you would only really take him if you took Evocators on Dracolines, and there are better options for the points cost, basically, for him. Battleline units, again, I'm probably going to cop flack for this. I really think the Sequitors, they're just not worth it anymore. Like, everyone loves a 5+ ward. Just remember, the 5+ ward is not all the time. It's in the combat phase only. And so they're on a 4+ armor save. If they had Shields of Sigmar as well, because the unit has the same shields as Liberators, like, why don't they just have that rule as well? If they had that, I'd probably consider them. But at 145 points, you're just taking Vindictors every time. I don't understand. I don't understand what they were thinking. If they gave them the +1 armor save when they had a shield, I'd probably consider them at 145. But as they are here, I don't think that you ever take them over the other units. And then Evocators, I don't think you take Evocators unless you're taking Sequitors. Evocators are so stupidly pointed because they're a wizard, but they can't cast anything. Like, they can cast Empower and that's it. But you've already got Celestial Blades in the lore. So why would you take Evocators when you can take another wizard that can also cast Mystical Shield or Arcane Bolt? I just don't see the point. Like, I know that you get 5 of them for 280 and they're 3 wounds each. They've got a 4-up save. 4-up save in the current meta is awkward. And they zap after combat. I don't think you take them. Evocators on Dracoline, same thing. You don't take them unless you're taking a Lord Arcanum or a Lord Celicin on Dracoline. They just don't do enough in the current meta, and they're too expensive. Simple as that. Tempestors, again, the other ones are in the F tier because I don't think you take them. Tempestors are a little bit different to the others. Some people might disagree with me. Like, Fulminators are obviously the best choice, but the Tempestors are the guys that have the crossbows, which are 3s and 3s with 1 rend and 3 attacks each. So I just think they're interesting. Like, and they're, each hit that you score with one of the crossbows is scores 2 hits instead of 1, and you can make him 2+ to hit fairly easily. It's 3, 6, 9, 12 attacks coming out of a unit of 4 of these guys. You're going to be hitting with 10, which actually means you're going to be hitting with 20 on a 2+, that is, and then you're going to be wounding on 3, so you're going to get 12 or 13 wounds at Rend 1. Like, that's not nothing. Combined with their melee output as well, I think they're worth a look in if you're going to be looking at something that's not a Fulminator. Retributors, so these guys were in F tier, and then I was convinced to bring them up basically because if you just take 5 of them, you don't take Star Soul Maces, you literally just take 5 Retributors with their Smashing Hammers, and they actually have fairly decent output for the points that you're paying, and they are 3+ armor save now. I think they're alright. They might even be C Retributors, to be perfectly honest, but I've left them in D. Vanguard Raptors with Hurricane Crossbows. So the Hurricane Crossbows are interesting. 4 shots each. Each hit that you score counts as 2 instead of 1. You can make them a 2+ to hit, and then your 3s to wound. So no rend, which is a bit awkward in this current meta, but they potentially have a place. And then I've got Steelheart's Champions and the Fast Riders. So the Fast Riders get a teleport, which is not nothing. But I think if you're running Astral Templars, you just take Vanguard Hunters instead for another 35 points. And you get 5 guys instead of 3, and they all have... Anyway, they're okay. And Steelheart's Champions, again, 90 points in Hammers of Sigmar. They're okay. If you've got the spare points, why not? Because there's not a whole lot under 100 points in this book. And then finally, the Cellstar Ballista. I'm not a fan of it. A lot of people saying that they rate it now. I don't understand why. Maybe for that single shot. The single shot's not horrible. Especially, with a Lord Ordinator around, 2s and 2s, Rend 3, damage D6. But I think you just take the Knight Judicator, right? Because he's on 2s and 2s, Rend... Is he Rend 2? He might be Rend 2 or 3. And then he's just damage 3. Like, you don't need to roll it. Yeah. I think that the Cellstar Ballista is basically put in its place. And then finally the F tier. So I'm not going to go through and justify this tier. Basically, this stuff is likely going to be severely overcosted, or the rules are just boring, or there's other stuff that does it better. So Gav and Neve, they're boring, and they're too expensive for what they do. They obviously nerfed Gav because he was amazing previously. Hero units, so all these guys here, basically other stuff does it better, or they are too expensive, or they do something that's boring. Like, pour one out for our friend the Knight of Zeros that now is +1 to hit on a unit that's within 9 inches of him at the start of the combat phase and only lasts for the combat phase. Like, there's just no point to taking him. The Knight Venator, you would never take him when there's a Knight Judicator available. The Knight Relict is just absolutely useless, which is dumb. Lord Veritan, I actually really thought they were going to buff him because he came out in the those Battletome boxes, but he's useless now as well. The Arcanum on foot's just outshone by the Arcanum on Griff Charger, basically. Judicator Bolt Storm Crossbows, literally no point taking a no-rend unit that has 2 shots per dude. You literally just take the guys with the bows, so why would you ever bother? And then Cascaders, Decimators, Concussors, Desolators, Griffhounds, Prosecutors with Celestial Hammers. All this stuff is just outclassed by other stuff that's already in the book, or it doesn't do anything enough for its points cost. And so that rounds out the F tier. And that's us coming to a close. So thank you everyone for watching the video. If you agree, disagree, want to have a conversation about things that I've said in the video, please reach out. I am at Zweihander on Twitter. I love to talk all things Age of Sigmar, and if you message me, I will reply. I can guarantee that. It might take a few days, but I definitely will reply. I've now got an arrangement with Just Play Games in the UK, so if you're buying any models from the UK, I have an affiliate link which I will leave in the description. So if you're going to buy anything through them, basically it tells them that I'm sending people their way. And, you know, I've talked to Richie and Ian a lot over the last, like, I've only been playing the game for 2 years. It's absolutely insane. But over the last 2 years, they've been really supportive, even when I was a nobody before I lost CanCon. They've always been really keen to talk and to help out. And so I thought I'd try and help them out back by getting them a bit of time on this. And hopefully that helps them. So yeah, affiliate link in the description below if you want to buy through them. The other thing that's going to be happening is that I'm going to be starting to play Stormcast battle reports, and so the first one will hopefully be coming out tomorrow. I'm going to be playing the Knights Excelsior, that's the Paladin one, I think, with a big blob of 15 protectors. So I got these guys painted up forever ago to run the oh god, what was it called? Anyway, the one that allowed you to deep strike. It was a White Dwarf battalion that allowed you to deep strike within 5 inches. You always had to take paladins with it, and so I got them painted up for that, and they're magnetized and they're really pretty. And so I think they might have some game in this edition, so I'm going to be playing a game tomorrow. So I hope you guys are looking forward to the battle report. It'll be out sometime this week. It should be a good fun game. I'm playing against Matt Gammy, who's running his Blades of Khorne. He's running the same list that he's been running for like the last 3 months, which is just boggles my mind because I change lists every single week. So it should be a really good matchup. First hit out for my Storm Bros, and so I hope everyone tunes in for that one. But for now, thank you everyone for listening, and I will talk to you all soon.